On the night of April 14, 1912, rockets exploded into the dark sky above the North Atlantic. They were distress signals. A massive ship was dying in the icy water. And less than 20 miles away, another ship sat silently in the darkness. Its captain was a man named Stanley Lord. His ship was the SS Californian, and the sinking ship firing those rockets was the RMS Titanic. For more than a century, one haunting question has remained: did the Californian watch the Titanic sink without realizing what was happening? In April 1912, the RMS Titanic was the largest passenger ship in the world. Built by the famous shipping line White Star Line, it represented the peak of modern engineering and luxury. On its maiden voyage from Southampton to New York, more than 2,200 passengers and crew were aboard. But the North Atlantic that spring was dangerous. Huge fields of drifting ice had broken away from Greenland and spread across the shipping lanes. Ships traveling through the region began sending warnings by wireless radio. One of those ships was the SS Californian, commanded by Captain Stanley Lord. On the evening of April 14th, the Californian entered a massive ice field. Crew members could see enormous icebergs surrounding the ship. Some towers of ice were visible even in the fading evening light. Captain Stanley Lord made a cautious decision. Rather than risk navigating through the ice at night, he ordered the engines stopped. The Californian would remain stationary until daylight. At around 10:55 p.m., the ship's wireless operator, Cyril Evans, sent a message to nearby ships. He warned that the Californian had stopped because of heavy ice. The message reached the radio room aboard the Titanic. But Titanic's senior wireless operator, Jack Phillips, was extremely busy transmitting passenger telegrams to a powerful station in Newfoundland. The Californian's signal interrupted the transmission. Frustrated, Phillips reportedly responded sharply, "Keep out. Shut up. I am working Cape Race." Evans turned off his wireless set for the night and went to bed. It was just after 11:30 p.m. Only minutes later, disaster struck. At 11:40 p.m., the Titanic struck an iceberg. The impact tore open several compartments along the starboard side of the ship. Water began flooding into the hull. Within minutes, the officers realized something unthinkable. The Titanic was going to sink. Wireless operators Jack Phillips and Harold Bride began sending distress calls. First, they used the older emergency signal, CQD. Then they sent the newer distress signal, SOS. Ships across the North Atlantic began receiving the messages. One of them was the passenger liner RMS Carpathia, commanded by Arthur Rostron. Carpathia immediately turned around and raced toward the disaster. But it was nearly 60 miles away. The Californian was far closer, and something strange was happening on its deck. Shortly after midnight, crew members aboard the Californian noticed lights on the horizon. A large ship was visible several miles away. It appeared to be drifting slowly. Then something unusual happened. A bright white rocket shot up into the sky. Then another, and another. In total, 8 rockets were seen rising above the distant ship. The Californian's officers reported the signals to Captain Stanley Lord. Rockets at sea were often used as distress signals, but not all rockets meant danger. Some ships fired rockets simply to signal their position. From the Californian's perspective, the distant ship appeared calm and steady. It did not seem to be moving rapidly or sending urgent Morse signals. Captain Lord asked his officers to continue observing the vessel. Meanwhile, the wireless operator was still asleep. The radio room remained silent. On the horizon, the rockets continued. As the night wore on, crew members on the Californian kept watching the distant ship. Then something strange happened. The ship's lights began to change. They appeared lower in the water. Then suddenly they vanished. The officers assumed the ship had simply sailed away or moved out of sight. But in reality, The RMS Titanic had broken apart and disappeared beneath the Atlantic Ocean. More than 1,500 people were now in the freezing water or drifting in lifeboats. The Californian remained motionless in the ice field. When wireless operator Cyril Evans turned his radio back on the next morning, the news was shocking. The Titanic sinking had become the worst maritime disaster of its time. Investigations soon discovered that the Californian had been closer to Titanic than almost any other ship that night. Questions quickly followed. Why hadn't the wireless operator been awakened? Why hadn't the ship sailed toward the rockets? The decisions made aboard the Californian would become one of the most debated mysteries in maritime history. Captain Stanley Lord spent the rest of his life defending his actions that night. The tragedy of the Titanic sinking is remembered for its enormous loss of life. But it is also remembered for the haunting image of a distant ship, watching rockets rise into the frozen sky. A ship that might have been close enough to change the fate of hundreds. And a captain whose name would forever be tied to one of history's most painful what-if moments.